Hi, welcome back to Tyne Valley Motorhomes. I'm Callum and this is the handover video of a Bailey Autograph 79-4. So if you're wanting to charge the vehicle at home or you're on a site, to charge the leisure battery off the mains hookup, what you've got to do is you've got to hook the vehicle up. So supplied with the vehicle is a hooker blade. Lift the collar, hook the motorhome up first and then hook the site or the house up, and do it in reverse order when unhooking so that you're never walking around with a live lead. To fill the Bailey full of water, so it's got a wheel filling point on which is slightly different to a normal hose pipe, so you want the square end, which is this. This clips into here, pushes in. If you pull the cap right up, what you can do is the notch goes just underneath the cap there, and then you pull it down and it's got a hold of it, and then when you come to undo it you just pull these blue pins in, which safely removes the hose pipe from the connection. Other end of the hose would connect onto the brass tap, so you do have the screw on bit because it's normally just a brass tap that the site supplies, and the hose lock end which clicks onto that, making sure that you remove both from the tap. But you can fill the vehicle with fresh water and see how much water is on board at any one time via your control panel. To drain your fresh water off, just underneath here you've got a fresh water drain off tap. So in the winter, when you're winterizing, you want to make sure that this is fully drained off, so no water is left on board the vehicle when it's cold, because it could turn to ice and cause problems and damage the vehicle's tanks and pipe works, which is normally an expensive job to replace. So what you need to do is just open it up, like so, and that will allow the fresh water out of the freshwater tank and drain away. Again, if you've taken on a source of contaminated water, or you're just parking the vehicle up for a couple of weeks and not using it, just drain it down, because that water is just going to become stagnant over time. Next we have your cassette toilet. So with all the locks open with a habitation key. So now I'm equipped with the keys. This is your habitation key, your Bailey key. So this opens all your external locks. Push both in on your cassette locker, drop the door down, and then what you can do to let the cassette out when it's full is put your hands underneath the orange handle and lift it up and slide the cassette out of the vehicle. You can either carry it or you can wheel it to the waste disposal point. Normally you would wheel it if it's slightly heavier, and the waste disposal point for your toilet waste is normally found beside the toilet block and shower block on site. And to empty, remove the cap, pop the cap to one side, start to pour the contents of the toilet out on the cassette, press the button in, allows a bit of air and stops it glugging, tip the contents out, put some water in, give it a rinse, tip out again, and then go in with a cap full of chemical, which can either be 120 ml of green or 120 ml of blue. It's entirely up to the site what you use. Blue has a bit of a dye in, so green's more environmentally friendly, but it just depends what they are allowed to use on their septic tanks for disposal of the waste. At the back here you have your flue for your Aldi heating system. So you can hear that now and you can feel the heat. Make sure that's obstruction free. That's because I've got the heating system on both electric and gas at the moment, because I've got a test bottle on. It's more for on gas to allow the fumes out than electric. Just behind the back wheel you've got your dirty water drain off point. So this is grey water. So this is anything that you've put down a plug hole goes into a separate holding tank. On the way out of your site, you drive over the grid or as close to the hedge or the bush. And what you want to do is, depending on what site has what facility, some have grates in the floor, some have just a hedge that you can dispose of it in a verge. And all you need to do is take the cap off and open the tap. And that will allow your dirty water out of the vehicle. You want to allow this out before you start driving, because you're just going to add weight for no necessary need. which is going to use more of your payload up on the vehicle, which means that you will be reduced on what you can put on board, and also it's going to consume more diesel because it's got that added extra weight. So get rid of it before you drive off your site, and make sure it's fully left open in the winter to avoid any water sitting here and potentially freezing in our colder months. In the garage here you do have some storage area, so quite a good bit of storage on this vehicle. Carpets, awning winding handle, rafter bar, which is your middle centre pole for your awning. The mains hookup bleed. We've talked about your hose for filling the water on the bailey. It does have light on either side, and the beauty with this garage is, because it's got the Aldi system in, these pipes get hot, so this area isn't cold. Because it circulates right the way around the perimeter of the garage, this area gets quite warm, so it takes the chill off anything that's in the garage. High level brake light, reversing camera, bike rack rails where the back panel has been strengthened in construction of the motorhome. This takes a Fiamma Pro series bike rack, and if you ever want to put a bike rack on, it's as easy as knocking these caps off, little torque screw in there, remove that, you'll be able to remove these caps off, hook the bike rack in, screws back in, caps back on, and it's good to go. So it's not a hard job to put a bike rack on if you did want to eventually put one on the vehicle. Parking sensors on the rear as well, so you've got 4 parking eyes on the bottom as well as a rear versing camera. Garage this side, which is exactly the same. Your awning, so using the awning handle, you'd put your awning handle up here and you'd wind the awning out. You want to wind the awning out until you can reach inside of the canopy, so to about there. On the front of the canopy, this leg, so pull up at the top, one hand at the bottom, pull towards you. Loosen the toggle, adjust the height of the awning leg. And then what you can do is put the legs at a slight angle and wind the awning and walk it out. So if there's just one person, put it at an angle, or if there's 2 of yous, one of yous just wind and one of yous just move the awning legs out until it's at its full extension. But always bring the awning in on a night or when you go out, and never leave it out unattended, because if the wind picks up, this will act like a giant kite and it cause damage to the motorhome next to you or your motorhome itself. What I always do is I never put these legs straight as well. I always leave them on a little bit of an angle, just so that it has a little bit more stability. I never have the awning flat, always have it on a little bit of a camber in case it does rain. The rain won't sit in the canvas in puddles in the middle. It will drain off the sides and the front of the awning. If you are using your rafter bar, clips in up here and on here, just to give the middle bit, with it being a slightly longer awning, that little bit more stability in the centre of the awning. You've got 2 fridge vents. This is your external gas point, so if you are planning on doing a bit of outdoor cooking on a Cadillac or external barbecue, what you can do is you can connect a quick release connector into here. Pushes in and connects, and then you want to connect the other end onto some orange gas hose, which you will need a Jubilee clip to connect the hose to the quick release connection and to the Cadillac or barbecue, which will then allow you to turn the gas tap on and bring gas to this point to feed your barbecue or Cadillac. This will use the main bottle on board instead of carrying a separate bottle to do cooking outside the vehicle, which is quite handy, because then you don't have to carry a bottle in the garage, you just use a bottle on board the vehicle, and you can cook underneath the awning. Here you have an outside telepoint, so a connection which is an F connection, so it's not like a coax, you need an F adapter to connect to here, but you do have an outdoor 230 volt socket for the awning. This will only work when the vehicle is hooked up, however, so you've got to be on mains for that to work, otherwise you will just get 12 volt. LPG, so liquid petroleum gas. This is your gas locker, and this vehicle is set up for propane, not butane. Butane is known as summer gas. It will freeze in the winter, whereas propane will go all year round without freezing. So you can use that in the summer or the winter and it's fine. So I've got my test bottle on board here. You can fit 2 bottles on board in this gas locker. When you put your bottle on, you sit it in here. First thing you want to do is strap it into place so it's nice, safe and secure. Then you want to connect this pipe. This pipe runs from your regulator to your bottle and is known as a pigtail. So it's left to tighten and right to loosen, so it's the opposite way with it being gas. You will need an adjustable wrench or gas spanner just to clamp on the back here and nip this up. And then what you need to do is when you turn the cylinder on at the top, so you turn the cylinder on here, 2 turns, don't turn it all the way just in case you have to isolate it quickly in an emergency. If you've turned it once or twice, it's fine, the gas will still come out the bottle at the same rate. Once you've turned that on, you press the black button. So the stopper pushes in, 5 seconds on the stopper, allow the gas through the crash valve into the van. If you're still not getting gas, you've got a little green button here on the bottom of the regulator which you can push in, and that is a reset. Again, that's another crash valve for the safety in case you do forget to isolate your gas and you're involved in an accident. For the safety of you and other road users, that's why the manufacturers put crash valves on the vehicles. Make sure though it is always turned off before you travel, just so it's safe for you and other users of the road. But once one bottle's empty, if you are carrying a spare, you can just take the pigtail off and swap it across to the other bottle. Your door, you can either use it on the central lock-in. Top one opens a cab, bottom one opens this door here, or if you want, you can open it manually with the habitation key. Beside the passenger door, this is where you'll fill with fuel, and this motorhome's diesel, so it opens with the main ignition key. So the Peugeot Boxer key is a lockable diesel cap. Use that, you'll be able to unlock the cap and put the diesel filler in. Also, because it's a new engine produced after 2017 on a Peugeot, it now includes AdBlue. So 19 litres of AdBlue does 5,500 miles. Once you've done around 4,000 miles and you've got 1,500 miles left to go, you'll get a warning light between the temperature gauge and the fuel gauge on the dashboard, which will indicate that it needs some AdBlue because the AdBlue is running low. You can buy it in the drums, and you might want to keep one in the garage for an emergency situation. The drums, you get 10 litres for about £20, between £20 and £30 depending on where you're buying it from. Or you can buy it on the pumps. So at the service stations where you see the wagon pumps with the long reach hoses, beside that there'll be a box which says AdBlue, and you can buy it on the pump, and it's as simple as removing the cap, putting the lever in, so the little filler, pulling the trigger and filling it. It's far cheaper buying it on the pump than it is buying it in the drum, because you'll only pay about £1, £1.20 a litre, opposed to £30 for 10 litres, and obviously 19 litres is the capacity of the tank. Tyre pressures are here, so these are, you've got your tyre size on the top. These are Bailey specific for the motorhome, so 69 psi on the front and 80 psi on the back, depending on what you want to run at. But these are your cold tyre pressures, so always check them when the tyres are cold. Underneath the passenger seat, you've got your tool kit, which includes a jack, a brace, a tone eye, and underneath the cab floor is where your engine battery lives. It's not underneath the bonnet, it's underneath here, so if you ever want to change it, this is where it's at. Bonnet release, however, is on the side of the dashboard with the passenger door open. And then here is your, underneath your engine, all your fluids, so screen wash. 3 tabs lift this part, the scuttle off. You can fill your power steering and your coolant, followed by your brake fluid, your oil filler and oil dipstick. If you ever need to jump start the vehicle from underneath the bonnet, this is your earth, black clip on here, air filter, positive jump start point, key or something flat, screwdriver, key, whatever you want to use, lift this up. Positive terminal for giving or receiving a jump start. So the heating and hot water system on this vehicle is an Aldi system. So it's the wet system, which is a very good system on motorhome. So it gives a true heat like the radiators at home, not a blown air heat. So you'd start the vehicle off by turning this on, which starts the system up. Tells you that the fan is on circulation, you hooked up, the inside temperature at the moment is 19.5 degrees, and you've got the date and time along the bottom of the panel. Press menu and you can adjust the temperature that you want it to reach. 30 degrees is its max, this is its thermostat. If you want the hot water on, picture the shower head. You have to press it once. It'll go to half a black bar. That means that the heating and hot water will run together, and it's going to heat the water and heat the vehicle at the same time. However, if you press it again, it goes to a full black bar. This is what's known as boost. Boost will turn off the heating for half an hour and prioritize all the heat to the hot water. So if you're in desperate need of hot water, you can put it onto the boost setting to allow you to have a shower quicker or do the dishes. But if you're just not bothered about when you get your hot water, which you will within 20 minutes to half an hour anyway, you can just run it at half a bar and it'll run the heating and hot water together. If you're on site, you'll use electric. So electric, press the plus, 1 kilowatt, 750 watts of mains 230 volt power, 2 kilowatt, 1800 watts of mains 230 volt power. So you'd normally use this on a 16 amp feed on a site. So normally on all sites throughout the UK you can use 2 kilowatts. On smaller airs abroad or CLs you may have to use 1, because they may not be as generous with their electric because they're a smaller site. They might only take 6 or 7 vans, so they don't have the infrastructure to supply big power like a camping caravan and club site. Or you've got 3 kilowatts, which you can use on some super sites. If you were wild camping, you would obviously not have electric on, but you would use gas, and you just press it until it goes green, and that is using the gas off the gas bottle on board the vehicle. But if you're away in the winter and it's cold, you can put the electric and gas on together, and it will reduce the time it takes to heat the water and the vehicle. It will bring it up to temperature far quicker. Pressing settings in the bottom right hand corner, you can set nighttime mode, so what temperature you want it to be, when you want that to start, when you want that to end, whether you want the hot water on or off, which is here. You can set all that so that, say at 10 o'clock, you've got the vehicle in nighttime mode and you don't want it to get any warmer than 16 degrees in the vehicle, but it may drop to 10 degrees overnight. It will just keep the vehicle at 16 degrees all night until you have it to end at 7:30 when you get up. And you can set that in here. You can also set a timer, so you can time it to come off and on in intervals. But most importantly, if you scroll down to page 3, if you're on higher altitude, you need to put high altitude mode on, which is this one here. So you turn that on, and that is for high altitude mode only to be used above 1,000 meters of sea level. So if you're on a site or you're up a mountain or anywhere abroad, you can turn that on. Scroll right the way down to page 4 of the settings and you can press reset. So if it's playing up and it's coming up with a failure and you want to clear that, the best way to do that is press reset. Press reset on the big red button there, and what that'll do is it will completely turn the panel off, restart it, and you'll have to select your temperature, your water and your energy source all again. In the kitchen, you do have 3 gas burners, 1 electric hot plate on mains 230 volt, which is this one here, which illuminates red when it's on. Pressing the ignition on the front of the Thetford oven will allow you to light the hobs. So push down, press. There you are, you've got 3 lit gas hobs. Allow them all to cool, even the electric one, before you put the glass lid down, otherwise you will shatter the glass lid. And underneath, you've got grill. So you've got a grill and an oven. If you ever need any parts for the oven, the grill, your stickers here with the part number on. Underneath you do have your gas tabs, so you've got 4 gas tabs here. So you've got your hob, your oven, your fridge and your boiler. Any problems with gas, turn the bottle off to be safe, but you can individually isolate one appliance from the gas taps. So if you think it's the fridge that's leaking gas, you can shut it off by just turning it like so, and that shuts the gas supply off from the main gas bottle through the lines, and it'll just not allow gas to go to the fridge, but all your other appliances if you were using gas for while camping. However, these are mainly for when the vehicle is annually serviced. A technician will test each individual appliance. Plug at the backs for your electric hot plate, but you do have some storage in there, so if that was playing up you can unplug it just to be safe. Push the catches in and you can pull and you can open the drawers. And you do have a large amount of storage on this kitchen, which is very nice. Push these cupboards in on the overhead locker, so don't pull them, push them first and allow them to spring up on gas struts. So storage in here. Lights for the living area, 2 230 volt sockets. The light for the kitchen you just touch here to turn on and off, and making sure the pump's on, you'll be able to get a pressurized flow if you give that a minute it'll start to come through hot. There you are, red hot. So your Aldi system is working as it should and heating your water up. Also in the kitchen area you do have a microwave, so this is the 800 watt microwave. So you press eco and you can wake the microwave up. After leaving it for so long it'll just go to standby, which turns the control panel off on the microwave, and you just press 30-second intervals there and cancel there. And that is your microwave. So to operate this styled Dometic fridge, so it's 3 sources and you've got your source selector on the left hand side. So you've got off at the top in the position at 12 o'clock. Then your next source down is a picture of a plug, which is mains 230 volt hookup. So when the vehicle's hooked up, whether that be on the drive at home, when you're pre-chilling your fridge, you can have, when you're pre-chilling the fridge, just so that you can put the shopping in the day before you travel, you can have it on electric, get it down to temperature, put your shopping in the day before, and then when you travel, you'll travel with it on battery, which I'll explain in a moment. Or if you are on a site and you've paid your electric fees, you'd have it on mains. When you're travelling between home and the first site, if you've had it pre-chilled in the shopping in the night before, like I was just saying, you can have it on battery. And what the battery does is, it's not off the leisure battery, it's off when the vehicle is physically running. The feed from the alternator will power the fridge in travel mode, which is basically like having a cool box in the back of the car. It will only keep it at a steady temperature, but it's got to be chilled beforehand. So great if you're moving between site and another site, or home and the first site, and you've had it on at home. It will keep everything nice and fresh until you either go back to electric, or on this fridge you can go down to gas, which is the bottom one, in position at 6 o'clock, down to here. This is your temperature, so you can adjust that accordingly to what you've got on. So when pre-chilling, always have it on full. When you put your shopping in, turn it down just so it doesn't freeze it. However, when you turn it on to gas, you do have to turn all the way up and push it in, and push the spark ignition in. And you want to wait. There you are. Hear the gas. This orange band goes into green. Never let go of the temperature dial until it's in the green, and you can let go. That is lit on gas, so that will work off the gas bottle if you were parked on a field, a CL, or in a Brit stop with no power. You would just have to use gas. When you're not using the fridge, you turn it off, clean it out. The last thing you want to do is close the door because it's got a rubber seal on. Forms an airtight seal. You've just trapped all that air that you've cleaned, that fresh air, in the fridge. So on the light, the courtesy light, you push the button in, slide it forward, shut the door, rest it. You can see that it's loose there. You can get your fingers down the edge. It will allow air to circulate in and out of the fridge. So in your washroom, to operate your toilet, if you press the blue button here, you'll get fresh water flush from the freshwater tank, making sure the pump's on. You get a pressurized flow. Put a small amount of water in the toilet to help lubricate the seal between the blade and the cassette. To open the blade, which is this grey lever here, you slide it to the right. You now can use the toilet. After you've used the toilet, give it a good flush. If you've got any pink, small amount of pink in an empty spray bottle, if you've bought the 2 jugs of blue and pink. Pink goes in a separate header tank, which this motorhome doesn't have, because it's fresh water fed for the toilet flush. So put small amount into a spray bottle, dilute the rest with water, spray the ball, flush and close the blade. And it does exactly the same thing, just obviously you can't put it in anywhere. 3 green lights underneath the diagram of the cassette will indicate that the toilet is full. You've always got to get into a routine of closing that blade. If that blade was open, the cassette won't come out the outside of the motorhome. So make sure that you get into a routine of flushing, opening, using the toilet, flushing it and closing the blade back off to isolate the toilet and allow the cassette to come out. Toiletry cabinet with a toothbrush holder. Light switch, heated towel rail next to the toilet roll holder. Again, red hot water out of your hand basin, which has got a push plug in there. Tie your shower screen back before you travel. You do have a hanging rail in here as well, which is a washing line, clothesline for hanging bits and pieces up or allowing things to dry in the shower tray, which is quite handy. And always make sure that you unscrew the shower head from the shower hose, because in the winter this will have water in it and you don't want the water to freeze and cause any damage. So just unscrew both of these, lie this in the shower tray just to stop any water from freezing, with all the taps throughout the motorhome left in the open position. Watch what you clean this out with. No harsh bleaches on any of the, because it is only plastic, you will damage it, especially the white, not so much the grey, but it is just plastic. So microfiber towel, cloth, some dish soap or Dettol spray is good enough to clean the washroom out. No thick bleaches because it will cause damage to the finish of the plastic. So in the back of the van you do have an island bed. So this is in day position when it's all pushed up, or you can lift and slide it down, and that's in nighttime position. And there is just a handle here. But what you will need to do is you will, when you want to put it back up, is just fold this forward and push the bed back. Steps on either side do have storage in them, so you do have storage in here, so you can store things in there as well as in this side, but not so much this side, because this side has your important boiler in. So your boiler is an Aldi boiler, like I've said, holds 10 litres of water in the boiler at any one time. In the winter, it's very important that you drain it down, and your drain down toggle is here. It's yellow. It's currently lying down. What you've got to do is you've got to stand it up on end. So you've got to stand it up like so, and it will drain all water in the boiler directly out underneath the van. Leave it stood open in the time that the vehicle isn't in use, and then when you come to reuse it, lie it back down like it's in the position now. Shut all your taps, because all your taps within the van would have been open, just so that any water in any lines had the opportunity of just being drained out. Shut the fresh and the waste outside and fill the vehicle with water. Once you've got the water on, the fresh water, you can come in, you can put the pump on, and you can go to the cold side of your tap first. Your cold side of your tap will get a pressurised flow of water because it's coming from the main tank underneath the van via the pump to the outlet that you've opened. Once you turn to the hot side, it then starts filling here, and this is 10 litres, so you're going to get 10 litres of potentially air coughing and spluttering through the taps until this reaches 10 litres mark, and you get a pressurised flow from the boiler. Once you've started with one tap, do them all. One tap should be the hardest, 3 or 4 minutes. Then all the other taps should be a lot easier to pressurise. Once you've got the water through the system, you're ready for the season. But if you are using it between Christmas and New Year, or in the winter time, always make sure it's drained down after you've used it. Regardless if you're using it every other weekend, it's enough to freeze the water when the temperatures drop. So allow the water out, because unfortunately in the stipulation of the warranty, it's your responsibility to protect the vehicle from frost damage, and so they don't cover it, and it's an expensive mistake to make. So make sure the boiler is drained down by lifting this tap up and allowing all water outlet taps to be open outside the vehicle and inside, so nothing freezes. So in the cupboard here at the back, you've got your Aldi coolant expansion tank. So because this is more like a radiator system, they don't put water through the pipes, they put coolant through the pipes. And the coolant has a 5-year lifespan, so every 5 years Aldi recommend that the coolant is fully drained off, the system's drained out of coolant, and new coolant's put in. Just because when it's on and off, it's obviously losing its antifreeze properties, because it's boiling, then cooling, then boiling. So if you ever needed to do that, or if you ever needed to top it up, there is five or six different coolants that Aldi recommend, which you can find on their website. So they recommend their own, which you can buy from any motorhome and caravan dealership, or you can buy other coolants from likes of Calford's, Euro Car Parts, which they recommend. They'll recommend a brand and a particular code of coolant. If you ever need to top it up, take the cap off and pop it in at the top. This is a breather pipe. Never top the coolant up before running the system, because with it being antifreeze, it expands. It's the same as your engine one. You might think, oh, that's a bit low, but then once you've run the engine for half hour, an hour, the coolant level goes up. It's just how it works. So there's a min and a max on here. Always run it up, because normally when it's on, it's a lot higher than max. So if you're topping it up when you think it's here, you're going to be well over and potentially too full on the bottle. But that is on. You can see it bubbling there. This is hot as well, so if you're hanging things in this wardrobe, it gets quite warm in here off just obviously the antifreeze being in the coolant bottle. So underneath your false floor in the lounge, which steps up, underneath here you do have the storage for your table and your table legs. But before we put the table in here, I want to explain what's underneath here. So underneath here is your leisure batteries. So this is where you'll find the leisure batteries on board the vehicle. You've got one leisure battery on there, but you do have room for an additional. So if you wanted an additional, all you need to do is get the same size leisure battery as the previous. As if this one is a 95 amp hour, so you need another 95 amp hour, because if you get an 85 or a 75, this 95 amp hour battery will only work as good as the smaller battery. So that's why you get the same sizes, wire them together, and one fully charged leisure battery while camping should last you 3 days if used correctly. You've potentially got 5 or 6 days with an additional battery. But this is where they are on board the vehicle. They're underneath the false floor in the front lounge. In the lounge you've got a switch for a fan, which basically is a 12-volt fan that blows the heat off the radiator fins through this point up. So you can turn that on and off. So wait until it gets warm. Once it gets warm, you can turn that on, and it'll just blow the heat and circulate it around the front of the lounge, because the cab is the coldest part of the vehicle, because it's not as insulated as much as the motorhome. So turn that on, it'll just blow the heat up here and keep the cooled air at bay. So here you've got your Bailey consumer unit. So you've got all your 230-volt appliances. So you've got your MCBs and your main RCD. So if you were thinking you were not receiving power, the best way to physically check is trip the vehicle. If the vehicle trips, it hasn't got power on. If it doesn't trip, if it trips out, it's got power. If it doesn't, it hasn't got power. So if you're connected and it doesn't trip, it's not the motorhome, it's probably where you're getting the power from. So you can try your main trip tester. Underneath you've got all your 12-volt fuses, so carry an assortment pack of fuses with you. If a fuse does go, you can just pull it out and replenish the fuse, so do go prepared with a pack of spare fuses. And at the back here you do have a little toggle switch, which is your freshwater tank heater. So if you're using it and it's going to drop temperature overnight, more so in the winter, turn it on. It just keeps the water above freezing in the tank bolted to the chassis. But if you are not using it and you're parking it up, just let the water out the tank to avoid the frost from freezing the water in the freshwater tank. So this is your front lounge made up into the double bed. So all you need to do is pull this section forward, pull that section forward, put your base cushions, move them forward, backrests in. It's up to you where you put the infill cushion, which we've found in the wardrobe, which can be in the middle, at the back, at the front, wherever, but it's probably best that you keep it at the back or the middle, just so it's jammed in. And just make sure that these have got catches on, so they'll not pull out if the catch is on. Take the catch off on both sides, and then you'll be able to slide this section out and put your base cushion on to make the double bed. So to operate the Avtex telly, which hides away in this cupboard here, if you've got any problems with signal, you've got your TV booster and aerial at the back. So you've got the amplifier, which I would always try first, which is in the corner here. So you've got a little wheel, make sure it's turned on at the top, and you can adjust the signal. If you're still struggling to get a signal, you can adjust the aerial, push the stem up, tighten, and use the toggle to direct the aerial on the roof. But always make sure it's pulled in and tight before you travel, just so that you can't get any damage to the aerial with the wind, because otherwise you will get damage if you've left it up. On the TV there's a little switch at the bottom. Turn this on. It's a 12-volt telly this, so it'll work when you're wild camping or hooked up. And they're a brilliant bit of kit, the Avtex TV, best on the market. Turn it on, pointing to the magic eye at the bottom.
And all the wildlife. And Peter.
And there's your TV working.
You're dressing for yourself. You're not dressing for other
Every
people.
time you move locations, you will have to retune the telly. So to do that, AQT, press and hold.
Find what you love.
Yeah, we push for time, so we're going to finish with this little beautiful number. Tell us about this.
So you
This
press
was
and hold,
from
get this screen, press OK, and it'll do an auto search and it'll find as many channels as it can in your area. If you wanted to change the source on it, you can press source. You do have a DVD player. It is got 2 HDMI, so if you wanted to make it into a smart telly by putting a Fire Stick or Now TV stick in, you can, and that'll work your TV. So in this cupboard here you've got your solar charger, which is charging both batteries, and that's green, which means they're fully charged. You've also got a 4G Wi-Fi system, so if you turn the switch on, it sends power, 12-volt power to the dock, which then charges the Hawaii router and also allows the aerial to bring in a signal, which is on the roof. So what you need on this is you need a data-only SIM card. Stick with EE or Vodafone for your SIMs, as they have the best coverage throughout the UK. Smarty SIM is a piggyback network of 3 which don't have that good of a signal. Pop your SIM in the back. So take the back off. You've got the Wi-Fi key here, so you pop that into your devices to pair with this. Put your SIM in here. You can connect up to 10 devices with the Wi-Fi. You turn it on. So you press and hold to turn it on. It'll start up once it's got sufficient charge, and you'll be able to connect up to 10 devices like I've said. But stick with either EE or Vodafone because they've got the best coverage in this country. Smarty SIM, it'll be a bit of hit and miss, and if you're relying on it, it's not the best. So if you stick with the other main providers, you should be able to get a good enough signal. So now you can turn it on like it has there, and it'll start up, and you'll see how many devices is connected to it and what megabytes or gigabytes it's pulling per second on the bottom.